Coming up in today's episode.
Yes, in the end we did both, but yes, first impressions was definitely not widely spoken, but the second impression is very busy. A lot of people, and my third impression was that it is extremely cheap, even cheaper than what we had in the northern part of Thailand. It is really that cheap.
We're Quentin and Vianney, two guys trying to visit 40 countries before we turn 40. We're taking the world on by trying to explore different countries, cultures, food, and by being as adventurous as possible. We decided to film all of this for our future selves to look back on for one day when we are older. So let's go on a Kiwi travel adventure.
Hi future Quentin!
And hi future Vianney.
And to all our friends and family watching, and today we are taking you to Vietnam, Hanoi! So this was a new country, so needless to say we were extremely excited. We arrived there with Asia, and then we obviously needed to quickly sort out all the visas and stuff, but when we got through we took a taxi to Hanoi itself to go to our accommodation.
Just arrived in Vietnam, we've checked into our hotel room and we've got the autumn room, so let's check it out. Welcome to our autumn pad, and we've got a little desk section down here with the fan, and over there television, storage, and a fridge, very important. And over there, this decoration, and then here you will find our very interesting shower and bathroom. Yes, you can shower while you're on the toilet. And then right behind us we have our beautiful view. And then right over here we have our beautiful view.
10 seconds later.
And over here we have our beautiful view. And over here we have a beautiful view. Come outside.
Typical Vietnam. We are in the hustle and bustle of everything in Vietnam. And directly after that, we then did our very own street food tour. Okay, we are here and we have just arrived in Vietnam, so we have decided to start off with a food tour, our very own. And this place came highly recommended for this, which is Banh Bo. What do you call it? Banh Bo Nam Bo. So this is one of the dishes that they say we must have. So here we go. Vienna is the guinea pig as always. So nice. Oh.
I'll take another one.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's do this, y'all. Oh yes, this is our little place to be eating. This is the bottom level, so we're sitting on the ground somehow. So it's basically got like noodles, rice noodles, and then some beef, and then some, I don't know what you call this, but yeah, let's try this. So this was highly recommended as one of the best foods.
It is one of the best. We'll be eating here again tomorrow. We are now at our third stop and we are having steamed rice pancakes with pork. I don't know what this is, it looks like a broth, but let's try it. Hopefully there's no egg in. It's a choice.
So we are having what they call a bun. This is apparently also very famous, and this is the chocolate version. Hot. But very nice. It's literally like a bun, a normal bun. What's chocolate in it? So we are sitting in a cafe in Chiang. So this is apparently one of the best egg coffees. That's what we're here to try. And it's also one of the first, actually, in Hanoi. One of the first cafes to make it. So we thought we'll try out the original. So this is that. I'm not gonna lie. We are sitting on very short stools.
We're sitting on the floor.
So I'm not gonna lie, not the very comfortable chairs, but okay. Let's try this, and this is
supposed
what
to
it
taste
looks
this first?
like. So egg coffee. Let's try this.
Quentin's got the hot one and I've got the iced one.
Oh my word. Oh,
Another one.
this is like a sweet caramelish. It's white egg yolk, but it's like
Tastes like marshmallow.
yeah, it's like
Like a marshmallow.
marshmallow caramel kind of. Let's try the coffee itself.
Yeah, the coffee's at the bottom. Way at the bottom.
Very strong. Very nice. Mixes well together. It's very strong. And then we just started walking back towards our hotel, but it was crazy busy. Like, in crazy is not even the word. There is so many people, like literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the roads. There's literally nobody with their scooters or anything. You can't. That's impossible. It's just a lot of people walking around, and while you are walking around, you get these random street performers all over with like advertising their little theaters and so on, just literally randomly on the street. So that was quite interesting and really enjoyed that. And then we just headed back to our hotel.
For our next day, our very first stop was the St. Joseph's Cathedral, which was a beautiful replica of the Notre Dame in Paris, France. And you could clearly see the French influence within the building. On the church complex itself, there were two gift shops on the side and these beautiful murals. The one painting was of the three wise men and the Bethlehem star, and the other one was a depiction of the Last Supper. When we got inside the church, it was beautiful, like any Catholic church. It really was quite wonderful, and that was the first time that I actually prayed again in a Catholic church since Corona. And it was also the church that had a statue of my namesake, St. John Vianney, so that was quite wonderful to experience that. It was time for them to close, so we were just, they allowed us to finish up and pray, and then we left and we went down to Train Street. This was quite wonderful to experience it. As we arrived to Train Street, normally you must wait for someone to somehow help you get in, but there was one of the restaurant owners on his way in, and he asked, would you guys like to go through? And we said yes, and he took us to his restaurant, which was the perfect spot for us to sit. We were upstairs. It was this beautiful terrace overlooking the train tracks and the other restaurants on the other side. There we had this wonderful experience of food and coffee. The coffee we had was again the egg coffee. We also tried the coconut coffee for the very first time, and the milk coffee, which was condensed milk with coffee, so that was quite wonderful. And we had a banh mi again, which was again quite lovely. Every time we had banh mi, it really just topped the previous one. And we finally tried something which we wanted to do on the food tour the previous night, but we had it here, which was the pho.
So we are having the famous pho. Here we go. So it's like a broth, noodle soup kind of a thing. So let's try. This is our first one. It might be good. It might be a flop. Let's see. Oh, it's good.
It's nice.
It's very light.
Yeah, very, very light.
So, let's see.
After having the coffee and lunch, we waited for the train, and it finally arrived. Quentin had a view from the top and I had a view from the bottom, and it was really quite exciting to have the train pass by and just to have that experience with every other tourist that was there. It was just quite so fun and exciting. It was like an adventurous thing to do.
Yes, and then from there on we took a boat and then we went to Ho Chi Minh Lake. Now this is one of the must-do things in Vietnam, which we really wanted to do, and this is basically the famous red bridge that you always see everywhere. It's also on one of the money notes that you see, which was really awesome. So it's this beautiful red bridge which leads to an island, and on the island itself is a temple, a Chinese temple again. But then something happened which we really did not expect, and that is we saw this huge tortoise. So at first we just thought, okay, this is weird. But then it came about, there is this legend about this tortoise. So he was basically in this lake, because obviously this island is in the middle of the lake. And the short story of it is basically that he gave one of his nails to one of the generals, and the generals then turned into a sword, and he then used the sword basically in a war, and then they won the war, and then he needed to give that back as a thank you back to the tortoise, and this is apparently the actual tortoise. So yes, we just roamed around this Chinese temple, and it was really interesting to see how they have a different form of Buddhism basically, but a Chinese version of that. So, and then from there on we walked to another famous spot which is also on one of the notes, which is the Thap Rua, which is also just basically the sort of a temple which is in the middle of the lake itself. You can't physically get there, unfortunately, but it was beautiful to see. And then from there on we strolled again, and we went to the water puppet theater. It's called the Tan Long Theater, and this is basically this big house sort of a thing which is on the inside of the theater, and then they've filled it up with water. And then it's basically these water puppets that they use from behind to basically maneuver the puppets, and they dance in the water, if you will, and they tell different stories of which one was, and including, like I said, the one about the tortoise and the legend of the Hoan Kiem Lake, which was really interesting. So this is one of the big tourist things to do, so really loved this. Us as theater lovers, it was interesting to see that.
After our theater experience, we went and searched for dinner. Throughout our entire time in Hanoi, we've always seen these beautiful restaurants which would be 2 or 3 stories tall, the family living in the upper part, and then the lower part would be converted into this funky restaurant cafe. So we found one, and the first thing we tried was the Hanoi beer.
So as always, when we are in a new country, we have to try a new beer. This is Hanoi beer, so let's try it out now. Cast a light, but just lighter. Not bad. Actually nice. Almost like butter. Very, very, very nice.
And our food that we tried here was the different types of spring rolls that they had. The traditional fried spring roll, the fermented rice spring roll, and the raw spring roll. We had these. This was really a wonderful experience, but it was cut short because shortly after our food arrived, there was some domestic violence. My father just went wild, throwing around things, knife and everything. So the staff was the entire family and the children. So everyone just got involved, and they were highly upset. So that was quite sad to see. But what we've also observed is that all over, everyone working on the streets or in these family-owned restaurant cafes, the children would form part of the staff. So directly after school, children would pop in and start with their activities, and they'll be busy till late in the evening serving people. So it was quite interesting to see the way of life of the people in Hanoi. After that, we went back home. And the next day, our very, very first visit was the Temple of Literature. This was a Sunday, so it was quite packed, so we didn't go inside because all of the families would normally take their children there on the weekends and specifically Sundays to receive blessings so that they may do good within the studies or exams or in school life in general. After that, we just went through the busy roads throughout Hanoi, and what was very, very interesting to see is that there was no road safety or road rules being applied by anyone. If you want to drive, drive. If you want to walk, walk. And it is quite nerve-wracking to cross a road, but after a while you do get used to that. On our way to view the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum, we passed by this beautiful tower, which was part of the ancient and very first buildings within Hanoi. And we also saw the beautiful Parliament building that they had there just in front of the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum. As we arrived in the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum, it was really quite interesting to see how many security checks you had to go through before you could get in. Security guards were everywhere, making sure that everyone follows the rules, making sure that people walk on specific areas, making sure that the clothing that people wear were very respectful. We saw the very beautiful one pillar pagoda, which was just absolutely wonderful. It was just so lovely to see it in person, so that was quite wonderful. The mausoleum itself was beautiful to see. We were unable to go inside because unfortunately Ho Chi Minh was not there because it was time for him to get a new renovation and a makeup, so he was being balsamed within Russia.
So yes, it was very interesting to see because Ho Chi Minh is basically like the Nelson Mandela of Vietnam, and he's basically on all of the notes and everything, money as well, so that's quite interesting to see. And then from there on we walked towards the Tran Quoc Pagoda. Now it was quite a walk, it was about a 20-minute walk, but on our way there saw another Chinese temple, and then from there on we actually stopped at something which we were very thankful for, which is Highlands Coffee. And Highlands Coffee is basically like the Starbucks, if you will, of Vietnam, but the coffee is absolutely incredible. We also tasted their mini Banh Mi for the first time, which was so cheap. It was like 14 Rand for one, so Vietnam in general very cheap. And then we went to the Tran Quoc Pagoda, which is something also very famous to do in the whole of Vietnam. So it's basically this pagoda or this big pillar, and inside of it you see all the various different Buddhas that have been placed in it. So we did go inside as well. It was very cool to see it from up close, difficult to take photos of because it is so big, but it was interesting to see. It's also like on a little island with surrounded by a lake, and then from there on we took a boat to go back to the old quarter of Hanoi. So when we arrived there, we literally stumbled upon this extremely cute cafe. It's called the Note Cafe. So it is literally plastered all over with notes. So they literally have these baskets with notes in, and you can write a little note and then you can paste it. It's like a sticker. You can paste it literally anywhere, on the walls, on the roof, on the lights, on the ceiling, wherever you want, you can paste it. So we wrote little notes and we also pasted it there. From there on, we literally just went for coffee just down the street from where our accommodation was, which was absolutely lovely. We are actually so sad that we only discovered that place so late, but really very nice. We had some coconut coffee there and all of the other coffees that they have as well, condensed milk and egg coffee and all of it. And then the next day,
back to the airport where we would take via jet to our next destination, but there was a 2-hour delay and no one was able to give out any information whatsoever, but the Vietnamese females made sure that their voices were heard.
Yes, in the end we did both, but yes, first impressions was definitely not widely spoken, but the second impression is very busy. A lot of people, and my third impression was that it is extremely cheap, even cheaper than what we had in the northern part of Thailand. It is really that cheap. So that then brings us to the end of this part of Hanoi and in Vietnam, but we will see you in the next part of when we go to Hoi An!
Next time on Kiwi Travel Adventures.
So after our disastrous day at the airport, we finally arrived in Da Nang, and then from there on we wanted to go to the Hoi An Bridge, which is the famous part of it, but there were absolutely no taxis available, so we had to start walking. So it took us about a 30 minutes walk, I think. We were a bit confused at one stage, but we finally got there and it was beautiful. It seriously was beautiful. So this is the reason you basically come to Hoi An.